This is Nightline and I'm Azaria Tagaya. News making the headlines. Parliament passes bill to repeal anti-fake news law. And police seek 56 more individuals for probe into Adib's murder. Good morning. After 2 days of intense debate in the Dewan Rakyat, the repeal of the Anti-Fake News Bill 2019 was passed by the August House on Wednesday. A total of 92 lawmakers voted for the abolition of the bill, while 51 lawmakers wanted the bill to remain. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Muhammad Arif Muhammad Yusof called for a block voting at the request of opposition leader Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. The voting was held through a voting process after the earlier voice vote was called off. Tan Sri Muhammad Arif said that the voice vote was a tie. Due to that, another manual voting process was needed.
Keputusan undian yang bersetuju 92, susut satu mata. Yang tidak bersetuju 51, susut dua mata.
Mansuh fake news. Sama-sama susut, okey dah tu.
Oleh demikian, lebih undian yang bersetuju.
The bill was first approved in the Dewan Rakyat in August last year, but the Senate has rejected the bill. Under the Constitution, when the Dewan Negara rejects a bill, a cooling period of 1 year takes place. Following the cooling period, if the bill is successfully passed in the lower house of Parliament, regardless of the Dewan Negara's decision, the bill will be presented for royal assent. Now, federal police reinvestigating the death of fireman Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim want 56 persons of interest to present themselves to police immediately. Bukit Aman CID Director Dato' Huzir Muhammad, who made this call Wednesday, said if they fail to do so, police will release their mugshots again. At a media conference, the CID chief said the 56 individuals are from 66 persons of interest required to assist police in the case.
Kami telah siapkan sebanyak 66, tak silap 66 gambar individu. Ya, cuma 10, I think 10 yang respon. Bakinya belum buat sebarang, belum berhubung dengan kami, so kami menyeru supaya mereka tampil untuk berhubung dengan pihak polis.
He noted that police will also call up 2 expert witnesses, Professor Shahrum Abdul Wahif and Dr. Amir Razi Abdul Ghani, to record their statements pertaining to the investigation. Both of them were among the 30 witnesses called up to testify during the inquest at the coroner's court. On the speculations that 4 men who were detained earlier were connected to Adib's death, Dato' Huzir clarified that they were not involved. Utusan Malaysia Berhad, Malaysia's oldest Malay newspaper, has ceased operations after 80 years in the industry following financial difficulties it went through. In a circular sent out to its employees, Executive Chairman Dato' Abdul Aziz Sheikh Fazir said Utusan Malaysia experienced critical business problems after May 2018. He said the company had taken a variety of measures to put it in a stronger position, including implementing a voluntary separation scheme and disposing of assets to improve cash flow. However, daily circulation of Utusan Malaysia and Cosmo continued to decline, with the newspapers missing the advertising revenue target of 4 million ringgit a month. Workers' salaries were also delayed and debts could not be paid on time. The company is now facing a variety of legal actions from creditors. Utusan Melayu's employees' last working day is Wednesday, while their final day of service will be on October 31st. Meanwhile, Utusan Melayu National Union of Journalists NUJ Chairman Taufik Razak told a press conference all 862 employees received termination letters from the company Wednesday.
Setakat ni, walaupun hari ini 9 hari bulan, pihak syarikat bersetuju untuk membayar gaji sehingga 31 Oktober. Jadi bermakna Gaji kami sekarang ni tertunggak 2 bulan. Bulan September dan bulan Oktober.
A briefing is scheduled to be held for all staff on October 30th.
Meanwhile, Utusan Malaysia will continue to operate under the management of a new firm in the future. Business paper The Edge quoted the latter's executive chairman, Dato' Abdul Aziz Sheikh Fazir, as saying that Utusan will live on and is expected to be relaunched, but under new owners named Aurora Mulia, which has acquired its printing licenses. The Edge also reported that the company's name recently surfaced in listed media group Media Prima Berhad. It has a 31.22% stake in the company to date. But whether or not the reboot of Utusan Malaysia will see its existing workforce transferred to a new holding entity remains unclear.
In the meantime, retrenched Utusan workers may seek assistance from the Employment Insurance Scheme SIP under the Social Security Organisation SOCSO. Human Resources Minister M. Kulasegaran said the SIP acts as a social security aimed at helping those who lost their jobs by providing assistance to them.
If the workers are retrenched under the law, they can always make representation to the SIP, System Insurance Pekerjaan, where they can, for 6 months, there'll be some payment of salary starting from 80% the first month. And during that process, SIP will give them, look for alternative employment for them.
Speaking to reporters at the Parliament lobby on Wednesday, Kulasegaran also suggested that the Utusan management to reconsider its decision to cease operations. He said the newspaper company should look into alternative solutions as the decision would impact the livelihood of its employees.
Local banking group AmBank found itself dragged into the 1MDB mess after it was revealed that someone from the bank may have conspired with Low Tech Joe or Joe Low to rip off the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The scam between that someone in AmBank and Joe Low, who is widely regarded as the brains behind the 1MDB scandal, saw the businessmen pocketing about R500 million. In the end, the High Court heard the losers were not only 1MDB and its predecessor, the Terengganu Investment Authority TIA, but also AmBank's shareholders.
Revealing how Joe Low had pulled off the scam, lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafiee Abdullah said it happened during the issuance of R5 billion of bonds in Islamic Medium Term Notes IMTN by TIA and later 1MDB in 2009. He said at the time Joe Low already had companies linked to him, namely the Actis Capital Singapore Private Limited and the Capital Group, which was run by the fugitive businessman's father, ready to buy the bonds at below market value. Tan Sri Shafiee, who was cross-examining prosecution witness, former 1MDB CEO Datuk Shahrul Azral Ibrahim, read out a letter between AmBank and Actis pertaining to a net amount of 74.62 million ringgit payable to the latter. According to the letter, AmBank stated that Actis had subscribed to the bonds at 617 million ringgit, with the company then appointing AmBank as a placement agent, which had then helped the company dispose the bonds at par value, 700 million ringgit, amounting to a trading gain of 83 million ringgit. Datuk Shahrul, who seemed to be taken aback by what he was hearing, later nodded in agreement to what Tan Sri Shafiee said. The 49-year-old is the 9th prosecution witness in the trial involving former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Mohammad Najib Tun Razak. Datuk Sri Najib, 66, is charged with misappropriating 2.28 billion ringgit of 1MDB funds, money laundering and abuse of power. The trial before High Court Judge Colin Lawrence Sequeira continues.
Now, the Kuala Lumpur High Court was told that former Felda chairman Tan Sri Muhammad Isa Samad did not seek approval to purchase the 160 million ringgit Merdeka Palace Hotel and Suites MPHS in Kuching, Sarawak at the Felda Board of Directors meeting. Former Felda Director General Datuk Hanapi Suhada confirmed the matter on Wednesday, saying that he also attended the meeting as he was then a member of Felda's Board of Directors.
According to Datuk Hanapi, Tan Sri Muhammad Isa was involved in making decisions at the meeting. Datuk Hanapi said this when questioned by Deputy Public Prosecutor Afzai Nizam Abdul Aziz on the third day of the trial of Tan Sri Muhammad Isa. The fifth prosecution witness also agreed with Afzai Nizam that the 100 million ringgit investment mandate decided by Felda was never withdrawn or abolished. Datuk Hanapi, however, agreed with Defence Counsel Datuk Salihuddin Saidin's suggestion that there was implicit approval for the purchase in 2014. During cross-examination by Datuk Salihuddin, Datuk Hanapi agreed that there was no instance of any member of the board of directors at Felda board meetings objecting to the purchase. Tan Sri Muhammad Isa is facing charges of corruption and criminal breach of trust, CBT, involving 3 million ringgit before Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali. The hearing continues.
Malaysia is poised to eradicate poverty under the Shared Prosperity Vision SPV 2030 introduced by the Prime Minister. Economic Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali said the 10-year vision also promises a better future for the B40 group.
Datuk Sri Azmin said the government's concern is no longer gross domestic product alone, but also poverty and the widening wealth disparities. He said the SPV 2030 will ensure the equitability of outcomes for all Malaysians by placing the prosperity and well-being of its people at the forefront of its development policies.
Dalam kita memburu kecemerlangan industri, Kerajaan Pakatan Harapan tidak akan mengabaikan tanggungjawab untuk membela masyarakat bandar dan desa yang berpendapatan rendah dan miskin. Wawasan ini menjamin bahawa kemakmuran dan kekayaan akan dinikmati oleh mereka.
Datuk Sri Azmin said the SPV 2030 was launched at the perfect time, especially with the uncertain economic climate that is happening globally.
Wawasan ini menyediakan turbo charge untuk memacu pertumbuhan ekonomi yang mampan dan melonjak kepada ekonomi berpendapatan tinggi serta meningkat kuasa beli rakyat. Kerajaan yakin matlamat wawasan ini akan dicapai melalui peningkatan kepelbagaian ekonomi atau greater economic complexity dengan memberi fokus kepada industri berteknologi dan berimpak tinggi seperti aeroangkasa, ekonomi digital dan pertanian berteknologi tinggi.
Launched on October 5th, the SPV 2030 aims to create wealth for the country that would benefit Malaysians from all walks of life. It is also aimed at expanding Malaysia's economic complexity and propel the nation towards high value-added economic activities.
Maju Holdings Sendirian Berhad is offering a reduction in tolls from 25% to up to 36% under its amended proposal to the government. Furthermore, it proposed to bear the toll reduction in full, and it was not seeking the financial compensation from the government for this, which amounts to 2.7 billion ringgit.
In a statement on Wednesday, Maju Holdings Sendirian Berhad said that with this latest offer, existing shareholders of Plus will benefit from an estimated total equity internal rate of return of approximately 16%. This, it added, represents a return that far surpasses the cost of equity for a majority of other toll road concessions, both globally as well as across Southeast Asia. Part of Maju's proposal is to invest about 5.3 billion ringgit, which will include lighting up the entire length of the highway. Furthermore, Maju reiterated that its enterprise value to purchase Plus includes debt outstanding to bondholders will be at 34.9 billion ringgit.
The Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, FFM, is hoping for the reinvestment allowance to be continued with no time limit. Its president, Tan Sri Soh Tian Lai, said the tax incentive is crucial in encouraging both foreign and domestic investments in the country. Top Glove Corporation Berhad Chairman Tan Sri Lim Wee Chai also made a similar call for the rubber manufacturing sector.
On reinvestment allowance, to remove the time bar. No, now they have a time bar by 2019. The reinvestment allowance will not be given. So we are thinking that reinvestment allowance should be continued without any time limit. So another one is on the accelerated capital allowance on automation's expenditure.
For manufacturing, I think the reinvestment allowance is good. Encourage factory to improve, to grow. And also the budget, we hope you will invest or spend more in terms of research, in terms of automation, industrialization of Industry 4.0, digitalization.
The industry stakeholders also hoped that the government would come up with a budget plan that could spur economic growth. They said Putrajaya should not only focus on reducing the country's fiscal deficit, but also on creating more business opportunities. Eight luxury vehicles seized in police operation. This and more home stories after the break. Back on Nightline. In Selangor, police busted a syndicate that had been stealing luxury vehicles in the state since January this year, with the arrest of 8 suspects last month, comprising of 6 men and 2 foreign women, aged between 36 and 52.
During an operation dubbed Ops Lejang Mewah Toda, Selangor Police Chief Datuk Nur Azam Jamaluddin said police also seized 8 vehicles worth 2 million ringgit, including 3 Toyota Velfires, an Alphard and a Honda CR-V, as well as equipment used by the thieves.
Jadi sindiket ini akan menggunakan master key untuk umpil lubang kunci dan dengan menggunakan mesin drill. Jadi dia akan buat lubang kunci kat tempat kunci kenderaan tersebut dengan menggunakan drill dan membuka kenderaan dengan menggunakan alat smart key programmer untuk membuat salinan program komputer box kenderaan yang hendak dicuri ke dalam alat tersebut.
He said this at a press conference at the Selangor Police Headquarters in Shah Alam. Datuk Nur Azam added that the vehicles would be sold in neighbouring countries like Thailand, where there is a demand. According to him, the syndicate the police busted was one of 3 brought down in recent months. In the latest operation, the male suspects were remanded Wednesday to facilitate investigations, while the 2 foreigners were detained under the Immigration Act. A police officer was among 4 individuals arrested for suspected involvement in extortion in brickfields on Tuesday. Kuala Lumpur Police Chief Datuk Sri Mazlan Lazim said preliminary investigations showed that the suspects had resorted to tactics used by gangsters to extort money. This by demanding a sum of cash to protect a construction site in brickfields. Datuk Sri Mazlan said police took a serious view of the matter and are investigating the case under Section 385 of the Penal Code for extortion. A video clip of a Honda Jazz driver weaseling his way out of paying toll 2 days ago has gone viral on social media. The 47-second footage was taken by the rear dashcam of a Perdua Kancil as it approached a toll booth at the Guthrie Corridor Expressway. The clip saw the Honda Jazz rear-ending the Perdua Kancil after it tried to tailgate the car past the toll booth. However, after getting into the accident, instead of stopping, the driver of the Honda Jazz then reversed his car, entered another touch-and-go lane before tailgating another car and speeding away. No injuries were reported in the incident and a police report has been lodged. In Malacca, a convict who fled the Dusun Datuk Murad Air Keroh prison was nabbed Tuesday night. The rearrest came less than 24 hours after he fled the prison. The convict, who worked as a general worker at the Tiara Golf Club in Air Keroh, was produced at the Air Keroh Magistrates Court on Wednesday, where he pleaded guilty to having escaped from the prison under the Penal Code. Magistrate Muhammad Nazrin Ali Rahim delivered a 1-year jail term verdict to the 25-year-old. He is currently serving a 5-year prison sentence under the Penal Code for causing death without intent. The man's jail term for this offence was to end this Friday.
White House refuses to cooperate with Trump's impeachment inquiry. Details when we return. Back with foreign news. In the U.S., the White House has officially refused to cooperate with the impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump, labeling the probe led by House Democrats as partisan, illegitimate and unconstitutional. The message was sent through a fiery 8-page letter by White House counsel Pat Cipollone to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the chairman of 3 congressional panels. In the letter, Cipollone accused the leaders of setting up an inquiry that violates fundamental fairness and constitutionally mandated due process. This means no additional witnesses under administration purview will be permitted to appear in front of Congress or comply with document requests. He also accused Democrats of trying to change the 2016 election result and deprive the American people of the president they have freely chosen. In response, Pelosi called the letter manifestly wrong and described it as another unlawful attempt to hide the facts. Over in the United Kingdom, Britain's government has announced plans to hold an emergency session of Parliament on October 19th, its first Saturday sitting in 37 years, regardless of whether Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been able to secure a divorce agreement with the EU summit next week. The move paves the way for a massive parliamentary showdown as politicians wrestle for control of the country. In the seemingly unlikely event that a deal has been done, the process of pushing through legislation will begin immediately. Otherwise, Johnson will need to set out his response and spell out whether he intends to obey the Remainer rebel law, ordering him to beg for a Brexit extension. The sitting could also be used for a confidence vote or for another bid by the Prime Minister to force an early general election. For the record, the Commons has sat on a Saturday just 4 times since 1939. Dancing parties are held across North Korea as thousands celebrate the 22nd anniversary of Kim Jong-il's election as General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea. Visuals of the celebration wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Azara Tagaya. Thank you for tuning in and take care.